Hello everyone, welcome to today's edition of Managing PostgreSQL Database on Cloud SQL. For today, we are exploring securing a Cloud SQL for PostgreSQL instance. An overview of this lab is that we are going to set up a customer managed encryption key for Cloud SQL for PostgreSQL. After that, we would enable and configure pgAudit on a Cloud SQL for PostgreSQL instance. And finally, we would configure Cloud SQL for PostgreSQL IAM database authentication. So we would use a customer encryption key to encrypt our Cloud SQL for PostgreSQL. We'll also set up a pgAudit so that we can audit the operations on that particular PostgreSQL instance. And we'll set the necessary IAM permission so that we can also be on top of the security. The target audience for this lab is designed for PostgreSQL database administrator, and it's beginner friendly, and you can learn a lot from this lab. So as usual, we are going to start our lab. I'm not a robot, just go over this captcha check. After that, I'll launch my lab. So as usual, we would open our lab in an incognito window. Just cancel out of this. So let me copy my password. It's pre-populate the username. Press the password here. Yeah, I understand this. I agree to the necessary terms and conditions. And here is the dashboard overview of my Google Cloud project. So we are good to go. The first thing we want to do is these are just the setup requirements, and we've done that. So for task 1, we want to create a Cloud SQL for PostgreSQL instance with the customer managed encryption key enabled. So the first thing we are going to do is we'll create a per project service account for Cloud SQL, which just means we are creating a service account that is for a particular project, and inside that project, it's only for a particular product in that project. So this is the command that I would use to create a service account. So this is us just exporting the project ID. It's going to copy this project ID here, and after that, this project ID rather. After that, we are using the gcloud beta services identity create command. So this is the service. This is the service, the SQL admin APIs. The project would copy the project ID that these templated values generate. So copy this command here. To activate our Cloud Shell, click on this and drag this up a little bit. Continue. You can see it's provisioning our Cloud Shell machine, and after that, it would also connect to our Cloud Shell instance. So got this, paste this command here, click on enter, just authorize this. So then you can see it has created the service identity, the service account, and this is the path to it. So we are good. The next thing we want to do is we want to create a cloud key management service keyring and a key. So a keyring is just a secure storage mechanism for managing cryptographic keys and related sensitive information. So keyrings are typically designed to protect keys from unauthorized access and also ensure their confidentiality and integrity. So keyrings are crucial in various security protocols such as encryption, authentication, and digital signatures. So just like a keyring, just like your typical keyring, how it helps secure your keys. So take that into the cybersecurity space. That's just similar things that a keyring does. So to create a keyring, we want to template this KMS_keyring as Cloud SQL keyring. We also template our zone for this lab, and after that, would template our region Then we'd use this command gcloud kms keyring create to create our keyring, and the name of our keyring would be this name that we templated here already. So copy this command here in our Cloud shell, paste this command, click on enter. So it has created it. So the next thing we'll do is we'll also create a key that would be in the keyring. So copy this command, just export this kms_key ID template in the variable, and we'll use the gcloud kms keys create to create our key. This is the name of our key that we are using here. The location we specified, the keyring, and the purpose, which is an encryption key. So click enter here, and that's also done. So the next thing we want to do is we want to bind the key to the service account that we created in the previous command. So the service account we created here, we want to bind this key into it. So with this command, just copy this command, paste it here. So it's also exporting the project number, and we have the command gcloud kms keys. It's going to add the IAM policy for binding to the key ID that we specified. This is the location, the keyring, the member, that's the service account that we are using, and the role that we are also granting it. So here we are. It's doing that. Yes, so it has successfully binded it together. And that's regarding that subtask. So the next subtask is to create a Cloud SQL instance with a customer managed encryption key enabled. So for this one, we'd create a Cloud SQL for PostgreSQL instance with CMEK enabled. The first thing we are going to do is, in order to do that, we have to access our Cloud SQL instance from the external development or application environment. We'd also configure the Cloud SQL instance with public IP address and control access by listing the IP address of those environments. So we are going to treat the Complete Engine instance in this lab as a development environment, and therefore would need to allow list to external IP address of that instance. We are going to also add the external IP address of the Cloud shell to allow list to make it easier to complete the tasks later in this lab. So typically what we are doing is just we want to create a Cloud SQL instance with customer managed encryption key enabled. So to do that, we first have to get the external IP of our virtual machine, the virtual machine that we are using. And don't forget that our virtual machine is representing the development environment in this scenario. So this is just what we are doing. Would export the authorized IP. So any value that this thing returns is going to be exported under authorized IP. So we typically know it. So it's something that we can get from our Cloud shell, and we can also get it from the navigation menu. So let's paste this here. So this is the authorized IP, which is the external IP of our virtual machine, and it has been exported and templated under this name. So if you want to also do that with the navigation menu or with the dashboard, so you'd see that this value here would also be the value that we are going to see here. So when you take a look at this external IP, cancel this out. So this here is still the same thing as this. Okay, that's fine. The next thing we want to do is, in our Cloud shell, we want to also find the external IP address of the Cloud shell. So with this command, and the result that is coming here is also going to be templated in this variable. So this is our Cloud shell external IP, which is here. And the next thing we'll also do is we would create our Cloud SQL for PostgreSQL instance. Let's create our Cloud SQL for PostgreSQL instance. So with this command, so take a look at this command. We are exporting the key name. So this is the keyring that we have done, the location. So we would also export the Cloud SQL instance. The name we are going to use for our Cloud SQL instance should be postgre-order. So this is the command that is creating the Cloud SQL for PostgreSQL instance. So gcloud SQL instance create. This is the name. This name here, PostgreSQL, is going to get the our project ID, the authorized network. This is the IP of our virtual machine and the IP of our Cloud shell. The disk encryption key, the database version, the CPU usage, the memory, the region, the root password of the instance we are creating. So click on enter. Yes, so I'm just going to click yes here, and it's creating it for us. So it may take a while for this to get created. Add fast forward it and see you at the end. Yes, so here we are. You can just, if you notice this is taking too much time, you can just refresh your browser here, and you should you would see the updated progress of it. But one thing you can do also is that you can be checking the progress of the lab here multiple times. So anytime this give a check mark and it's not reflecting here, you can just do a hard refresh and you would see the values. So here are the necessary IP addresses and the necessary IP address and the details of the instance that we just created. So for task 2, we want to enable and configure pgAudit on a Cloud SQL for PostgreSQL database. So we want to be able to audit the operations, audit the logs on that particular SQL for PostgreSQL database. So the first thing we want to do is we want to add the pgAudit database flag to our Cloud SQL instance. So with this command, paste it in the browser. So we have the Cloud SQL instance. This is the patch to the cloud. This is the name of the instance we created. This is the database flag that we want to add. Okay, so I'm going to say yes. So it's also going to patch the Cloud SQL instance. So you can see that the patching has been successfully done, and we have it here. So the next thing we want to do, as said by the instruction, we'll go back to, from our navigation menu, let's go to our SQL. Let's see the database we just created. So this is the instance that we have, database instance. From here, we are going to restart it so that everything we have here can populate. So restart, just click on restart. So it may take like 1 minute for this to get restarted. So you can follow the progress here. So when it has successfully restarted, I'll continue. I'll fast forward it and see you at the end. So this has been successfully restarted, and you can see it here that it has been restarted. The next thing we want to do after that is to go into that particular instance. So let's access that instance. So I'm just going to copy this password here so I don't come back here. So this is the password we configured when we were creating the instance. Let's go back to that command. So the root password here is super secret with the exclamation mark. So let's make sure I'm copying the right thing. Copy it here. Okay, so from this overview menu, when you go down under this connect to this instance, you can just open the cloud share. When you click on open cloud share, it auto-populates a command for you directly, which is this one, and you can just click on enter. So after allow listing your IP, it's going to request the password. So here's it requesting for password. Paste it here, click on enter, and now we are in our database. So we are in the Postgres database that we have on Cloud SQL. What we want to do is we want to go into what we just created. So when you click on this, we'll create a database name called others, then we'll go into that particular database name. Okay, so it's going to request for the password again. So the same password that you use, super secret. Copy it here, paste, enter. Yeah, so I think I added a extra white space to the password, which is this. So I'm just going to make sure I'm copying this well. Paste this here. So let's try to enter the database again. Paste this here, enter. And now we are in the database, and we are in the database instance, and we are also in the database name called others. So that's fine. The next thing we want to do is we want to create and configure the database extension. So with this, we'll create the database extension for the pgAudit, and we are going to use an SQL command that alter the database orders set the pgAudit log to read and write. So the pgAudit should have a read and write permission on that particular database. So paste this command here, click on enter. So you can see it has created the pgAudit extension, and it also altered the database. So the next thing we want to do is we want to enable audit login in Cloud Console. So to enable audit login in Cloud Console, we have to first let's go to our Cloud Console. Under the logins, let's see the logs that we can even see on our Cloud SQL. So for that, from our navigation menu, once again, would go down under IAMs. Yes, under IAMs and admin, we should see our audit log. So this is, we have this here. Just going to cancel out of this. So under this, we would type Cloud SQL. Let's look for Cloud SQL. This is Cloud SQL. Check this. So I'm going to check mark all this, and I'm going to also allow all this one here. Click on save. It has updated the necessary configurations, and that's just what we have to do from this side. So we've done that. So the next thing we want to do is we want to populate the database on our Cloud SQL for PostgreSQL. We want to populate it with some data. So to populate it with some data, I'll just copy this command. Copy this command. Click on the plus sign here. After clicking on the plus sign here, then we paste all this here. So it's copying all the data from the cloud storage path that we asked it to copy from. So what this command is doing is exporting source bucket. Anytime it sees source bucket, it's going to use this link. So, and this is like this is the link to the folder, and these are the files in the folder. These are the files in the folder here. So that's good. The next thing we are going to do is we'll create and populate the database as follows. So let's populate our database. So what we are doing here is, this is our Cloud SQL instance, the name. Then this is our PostgreSQL IP. We have the IP here. This is the password, super secret. So we want to save all these data here, especially the ones here, into the others DB. Paste it here. So all the data that we downloaded are now in there. So you are now connected to database others as PostgreSQL, and it's copying the data from all these ones. You can see that it's copying them, and it has copied all of them successfully. So the next thing we want to do is that we can now exit the terminal session. We can just exit the terminal session so that we can go back to the previous one that we have. So here we are on the previous one. The next thing we want to do is that we want to explore, or we want to log the operations that's going on our database. We want to log it, and we want to see if it's going to show in the logins that we just configured previously. So using this command, so the create role auditor with no login would alter the database order, would set the pgAudit role to auditor, then we'll grant select on other item to the auditor. So just grant it necessary permission for the role. Then we'll run this command. Click it. So this, we've truncated the data to the first 500, and we just need to just see the first one. So can just use this. We'll just hit Q, so that it's going to go back. We'll do the same thing again for this second one. Copy the first command once again, paste it here, click enter. After doing that, go to the second part of the command, copy this. So we'll see if we can see all these operations that we are doing. We'll see if we can track that from our audit logs. So the next one, copy the first command also once again, paste it here, click on enter, and after that go to the third part of the SQL command, copy this, paste it here. So we have that here. Also hit Q, and we are good to go for now. So we can exit the database, and by using this one. So we've edited the database. We are now back in our Cloud Shell view. So let's view the pgAudit logs. Let's see if we can see few of what we just did finish. So for that, we'd go to under operations, from the navigation menu under operations. Operation is a little bit downward. So under logins, click on logins. Just to break this down a little bit. So let's copy the query ID. So the resource type here, we want it to check under the Cloud SQL database, the log name of it. This is the path to the log name. After that, we are mainly concerned about the proto payload.request type. So copy this here. Just next, so you can just cancel out. So this is the query we want to use, because this log is logging a whole lot of information. We are streamlining what we want to just all this. So let's run a query. So this is going to be majorly concerned about the database instance that we just created. So, and you can see the graph menu. This is like the histogram that we have here showing this. So if we click on this one, this should talk about the last command that we just ran. So if you want to view it, what we can just do is expand this log entry. After expanding the log entry, under the proto payload, so we can expand the request type. So under the request, we should be seeing the SQL statement. So look at this statement: create role auditor with no login. So let's close out of this. If we go downward a little bit, click on this last one here. Under the request, you should see the SQL statement. So you can see this SQL statement. Select order underscore item this, and let's see the SQL statement that it logs. So which is the last one? This last one that we just did there. So order underscore this, which shows that it is logging them, and we can review everything here under it. So which is good, and that's just typically what we want to see. So then we want to do is let's see if we've completed this. We've complete. So for task 3, we want to configure Cloud SQL IAM database authentication. IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. And under this task, we are going to test the database access using a Cloud IAM user before Cloud SQL IAM authentication is configured. So let's test access to the other database using our student account as the username. So let's see. So this is mostly likely to fail because we don't have access yet. Let's test it. And you can see there's an error, connection is failing because we don't have access at the moment. So which is what we know would happen, and that's fine. So let's make it right. So the first thing we want to do is we would create a Cloud SQL IAM user, and after so let's create a Cloud SQL IAM user. So the first thing we'll do is go back to the navigation menu under our SQL. Let's go back to our database. This is our database instance here. When you take a look at this database instance, you can go down, you would see some DB flags. So look at some DB flags that we have here. These are the flags that we set. Then the pgAudit is on, and we also set the permission to all. So let's go to the users. Let's add a new user account. So we are going to add a new user account. We are adding it as a Cloud IAM, and we'll be using the name of our so we are going to use the what did they ask us to use? We are going to use our student name for this lab. So this is the student name, the username, paste it here and click on add. So after you get added here and it has edited the Postgres other database instance, we can now go back to the overview and see that it should get added. There should be a new flag that will be added for IAM. Has been edited successfully. When you go back to the overviews, let's take a look at the flags once again. So when you now see the flags, now the database flags, we have 3 flag, we had 2 before, and this is the new one. The Cloud SQL IAM _ authentication is now enabled, which is what we want to do. That's progress. So we've done that. We've created the Cloud SQL IAM user. The next thing we want to do is we want to grant the Cloud IAM user access to the Cloud SQL database. So we can go back from the overview menu and click on connect to our database instance, or we can just copy this command. I'll just do the former. So this is what I'm going to do. Open this. So it will pre-populate the command for me, and it has pre-populated it already. Then I strike on the enter. So it's going to allow lists as usual. So now I'll just input my password here, click on enter, and you can see here is I'm now in the database. So let me see into the others database. Now I'm on the others database. I also have to put my password once again to be granted access. So you can see now I'm now connected to the database others. So this is the database name in the database instance. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to grant the lab user all the permissions for the order underscore item table inside the other database name. So don't forget that this is also the name that we granted to this IAM. So grant all privileges on tables to this particular user. Let's grant everything, and it has successfully granted it and exited that, so which is fine. So the same thing that we tested in this particular part that failed, let's now test it once again. Now it should pass because we've configured everything that we are using. So this command, when you copy it here, let's paste it here. When you click on enter now, so you can see that it was successful, and now we are inside the others database. We are inside. We are not even asked to even configure, put the password once again before we enter, and now we are inside because it's a Cloud SQL IAM, and we've already configured all the password inside this particular part, and we are using an access token. So that's fine. So let's run a query. If we can run. So here we could get a count of everything here. If you even want to select all from this, it's typically what you would not do, but just going to do that. Let's see. I select all from this particular table. I should see all the data here, so it's a whole lot. So this is just what this data contains. So I'll just hit on Q to exit that. Okay, that's fine. And let's also test if we would have access to a table that we've not granted permission on. Take a note that under this part we said grant all privileges on table order underscore item, and that is why we could access the order underscore item. So we did not grant access to the users, so we shouldn't have access to user. Let's copy this and I paste this here. So you can see that permission is denied, which is what we expect to happen. So let's see if maybe we can grant permission now. Let's see, okay. Okay, so let's see if we can grant access to the user now. Let's see if it will work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this grant. So first thing first, I have to first see into order. So let's go back to our Postgres instance one by one. Let's take things at a time. This is just an extra task. So let's see if we'd be able to access it after we've done this prompt. Yeah, so our password, as usual, our password super secret. Make sure you're not copying any white space with it. Paste it here, click on enter. We have it here. So see into others. So you would have to input the password once again. Enter. And after that, let's try to grant privileges on the users table now. So I'm going to edit this command and change this to users. So we'll now also test if we can see for the users. So I'm just going to edit this. Let me test. Let me just confirm once again if it's what I want to do. Yes, users. Then I can strike on enter now. So it has also granted the permission. Oh, sorry. So I've got to know where the error is coming from. So after doing this, we have to first enter into the database once again. So let's enter into the database. So after entering into the database, we have entered into database orders now. So that's when we can now run the command. So we were running the command before entering into the database, which is not supposed to be. So when we click on enter now, and you can see that we now have access to this users table, and it has 1 to 126,019 rows. So the one that was giving us permission denied before, now we now have permission. You can also run the command to view most of the data here. Click on enter, and you can see that these are just the data. This is how like it looks like. It's a whole lot of data. So I'm just going to exit this, and can now exit this also. Can exit the Cloud Shell also. So that's typically everything for this lab. Let's check our progress, and our progress should be fine now because we've completed everything. Yeah, we've completed everything. This would change to 100 in a bit, or you can just go here and click on this. So we have our full score, and we have 100 over 100. So congratulations to every one of you. You've just secured a data at rest in Cloud SQL for PostgreSQL using the customer managed encryption key. And we've enabled the pgAudit and configured Cloud SQL IAM databases authentication. So thanks very much for staying true to the end of this lab. If you enjoyed this lab, smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and do very well to share this lab to your loved ones and your colleagues doing similar things. So thanks very much for staying tuned once again. See you in the next lab. Bye for now.